Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something a bit different, not really a report, more like, well, the political shockwaves from a recent press conference.
That's putting it mildly. We've got key moments from a meeting between a former U.S. president and the president of Turkey.
And this wasn't just, a simple chat.
No, definitely not. It became this huge global stage, covered everything from major military sales to ongoing wars, hostage talks, even really divisive U.S. domestic stuff like border policy. A real masterclass in transactional politics, if you want to see it in action.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this beast. Our mission here is to cut through all that complex, sometimes pretty confrontational talk and pull out the core political and economic intel you need.
We'll basically look at it in three parts, right?
Yeah, exactly. First, the sort of transactional leverage game between the U.S. and Turkey, then the big global picture Ukraine, Gaza, and finally some pretty surprising claims about U.S. domestic policy that came up.
Sounds good. Where do we start?
Let's start with the U.S.-Turkey relationship itself. The tone was set early on by the American side. High respect expressed for the Turkish president, but then immediately calling them a tough man, someone highly opinionated. It's that mix, isn't it? Personal respect, but very hard-nosed.
It feels quite delicate, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it seems like everything depends on something else. And the main leverage point right now, military gear.
Specifically.
Well, getting Turkey back into major U.S. defense programs. The Turkish president confirmed they were there to talk F-35s, the F-16 deal, and the Patriot missile system, too.
And the reason Turkey was kicked out of the F-35 program in the first place, that was brought up immediately, with a very specific political spin.
Oh, absolutely. The former U.S. official didn't mince words, blamed it squarely on what he called stupid decisions by the Obama and Biden administrations.
Because they wouldn't sell Patriots to Turkey back then.
Exactly. So by bringing that up, it's not just negotiating a new deal. It's framed as fixing a mistake, a partisan error almost. Makes the current sale seem, necessary, urgent even.
And it's not just the big jets, right? There were other U.S. measures against Turkey in play.
Yeah, the Sanctions.
Yeah.
For listeners maybe not following this daily, that's the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act.
Imposed because Turkey bought the Russian S-400 system.
Precisely. And the discussion apparently turned pretty quickly to lifting those Kiatsa sanctions, maybe very soon. It's a clear signal. Cooperate on this F-35 Patriot package, and the path back to full military partnership opens up.
And economically?
The Turkish president seemed ready to play ball there, too. Confirmed he's ready to remove tariffs on U.S. goods. So you see the economic side moving, or eventually moving, right alongside the military stuff.
It's all linked. But then there were these other sort of smaller diplomatic points woven in, like Pastor Brunson.
Right. That was surprising. The former official bringing up his own role in getting Brunson released from that, 35-year sentence?
Why mention that now?
Well, it's like putting down a marker, isn't it? Reminds everyone, look, when we work together, I can deliver on these really tough asks. Especially things important to, say, the evangelical community back in the U.S.
Builds goodwill, or maybe just demonstrates capability.
Yeah, something like that. And in the same sort of vein, there was that mention of the Greek Orthodox Church request about the hiatus school.
And the Turkish president agreed to look into it.
Agreed to discuss it when he got back. It just shows how this transactional approach works on all levels. Huge fighter jet deals on one hand, specific religious or cultural diplomacy on the other.
Okay, let's shift gears. Global conflicts. And some of the claims here were, wow. Starting with Russia and Ukraine, the American side really pushed Turkey to stop buying any oil from Russia because of the ongoing rampage against Ukraine.
And the numbers presented about the conflict, I mean, if they're even close to accurate, they're staggering.
What were they?
The claim was that Russian forces have lost millions of lives. Now, later that was specified as 1 million soldiers. 1 million.
Wait, hang on. 1 million soldiers.
That was the number stated. 1 million soldiers lost while gaining, and this is the quote, virtually no land, despite really heavy fighting in just the previous 2 weeks.
I mean, 1 million lives. That's almost incomprehensible. If that's true, it totally changes how you'd view the war's trajectory. And it puts neutral countries like Turkey in a really tough spot, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. How long can you stay neutral if one side is supposedly suffering losses on that biblical scale? And it ties into the whole discussion about NATO.
Right, the claim about defense spending.
Yeah, the official claimed his earlier pressure got NATO countries to boost defense spending from 2% GDP up to 5%. Said it resulted in trillions of dollars pouring into highly sophisticated weaponry.
But here's the kicker, he emphasized.
Exactly. He made it very clear. The U.S. is selling this stuff, Patriots, Javelins, missiles, to NATO allies for full price.
So not aid like the previous administration reportedly provided billions of.
No, this was framed purely as business. The U.S. benefits economically from NATO beefing up its defenses. It's a very different model of alliance support being presented.
And Turkey's role in all this?
Well, the Turkish president was acknowledged as being very respected by both Putin and Zelensky, which allows him that very neutral position.
But the suggestion was...
The main ask, the biggest intervention he could make, according to the American side, was economic. Just stop buying Russian oil and gas. That was framed as the best path towards peace he could facilitate.
Okay, let's pivot from that to the Middle East. Gaza and the hostage situation. This sounded incredibly urgent.
Definitely. The objective stated was very direct: get Gaza over with and get the hostages back.
Yeah, and they shared some really specific, frankly harrowing details from recent talks.
Yeah, apparently stemming from high-level meetings around the UN General Assembly. Mentioned leaders or reps from Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Jordan, Egypt.
And the numbers on the hostages.
The information shared was that they believe there are 20 living hostages still, and 38 deceased hostages whose bodies the families desperately want returned.
Dad, those details just underlines the human cost and the absolute urgency.
No question. And the arrogant side sounded, well, optimistic. Stated deal is close, could even happen today. It shows this intense diplomatic push from everyone in the region to resolve it fast. Getting those hostages back, alive or not, is clearly the absolute priority driving things.
All right, now we need to make a hard turn, because the third big part of this press conference was a sudden shift away from all that international diplomacy.
Right into some very heated, very partisan U.S. domestic politics. And just to be clear for everyone listening, we're reporting these claims impartially as they were presented in the source material. We're not endorsing them, just relaying the rhetoric used.
Okay, so first up, a potential U.S. government shutdown.
Blamed entirely on Democrats, according to the source. The accusation was they're demanding massive federal money for people who entered the country illegally.
Which ties straight into border policy claims.
Directly. The border itself was described using some pretty specific political language. Absolutely perfect borders and stone-cold flows.
Stone-cold flows? What does that even mean?
It's rhetoric claiming the border is completely secure, basically, that illegal crossings have been stopped and people can only enter legally. It's a claim of total control.
Okay. And the counterclaim about Democrats?
Equally stark. The assertion was that Democrats want to throw the borders open again, allow entry to, and these were the words used, prisoners, people from mental institutions, and drug dealers. Extremely charged language, clearly designed to raise the political stakes around the shutdown fight.
Wow. Okay. Then there were economic claims, specifically about tariffs.
Right. The assertion was the U.S. is currently making more money than we ever have made, and that this is because of tariffs.
And there was that weird anecdote about finding money.
Yeah, that $31 billion figure, claiming it was just sort of found and they figured out it must have come from tariffs. It's a notable claim.
And the plan for that money?
Explicitly stated. Use it to pay farmers who might be hurt by tariffs in the short term. The idea being the tariffs will eventually kick in to their benefit and American farmers will make a fortune. That was the argument.
Okay, one last area here, and it's heavy. Political violence and comments about the Justice Department.
Yes. The official brought up a shooting at an ICE facility in Texas, mentioned recovering engraved bullets, and a note saying something like, hopefully this will give ICE agents real terror.
And the cause.
Explicitly blamed on radical left rhetoric, which was immediately followed by this rather pointed warning that the right is a lot tougher than the left.
That's quite a statement.
It is. And regarding accountability, specifically about former FBI Director James Comey.
He didn't hold back there either.
Called Comey a bad person, a sick guy, but then also stated he wouldn't interfere. Said the Attorney General and the professional staff would handle determining accountability.
A mix of personal attack and procedural deference. And one quick final point they squeezed in. Syria.
Oh yeah, almost forgot. A very brief but bold comment crediting the Turkish president with the successful fight in ridding Syria of its past leader, adding that people had been trying to do that for 2,000 years.
2,000 years. Okay. Quite the historical scope there. Positioning the Turkish leader as the one who finally succeeded.
So if you step back and look at the whole thing, This press conference really was a masterclass, like I said, in highly personalized, deal-focused politics. You see how arms deals like the F-35 are directly tied to urgent hostage diplomacy, and how both connect back to domestic fights over tariffs and borders. It's all interconnected in this very transactional way.
Right. So we managed to pull out those three big threads for you. First, that high-stakes F-5 and Kikatsa sanction negotiation framed as fixing past political errors. Second, the really shocking potential human cost of the Ukraine war based on those figures given. And third, the domestic political battlefield focusing on tariffs, border rhetoric, and that government shutdown threat.
So what does this all mean for you?
Well, here's something to think about. Given those incredibly stark figures presented about Russian losses in Ukraine, potentially a million soldiers dead with little ground gained, does that kind of military reality, if true, eventually force a shift in Turkey's neutral stance? Or does the economic need, like buying Russian oil and gas, continue to outweigh even that kind of devastating military calculus? Definitely something to keep exploring.